Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Want to welcome everybody here. Want to give a shout out to those here live and also those watching this in the recording. Want to say hello to everybody. If you are here live, feel free to let me know if you guys can hear my audio and see my screen in the chat box. Just give me a little Y or a yes there just to let me know that it is indeed working. Hope everybody's again having a fantastic morning so far. Let's go ahead and get started with our live trading session this morning. As always, I need to remind you guys about the risks involved in this market. You can lose all or more than your initial investment if you're not careful. So please be aware of how many pips you're risking on each trade, in addition to how big your lot size is, and ultimately how that would affect your account if you were to lose money. So make sure that you're going through that process each and every time that you take a trade. All right, guys. Well, hope you guys enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully, you had some opportunity to visit family or barbecue or anything like that. Hopefully, it was awesome. Um, and obviously, yeah, like I said, hopefully you had time to reflect on those that have passed on. So, all right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about the scanner first. Looks like our weekly trades are doing pretty well so far. They're off to a good start despite the holiday weekend, which is good. So hopefully you've been able to get into those weekly trades at the beginning of the week. And yeah, they're looking pretty good. I'll give you a little recap on mine. So we had 12 trades. In fact, I'll just pull these up here. So these are the 12 signals we're focused on for the week. I got 8 that are positive right now and 4 that are down. Uh, and the ones that are positive are generally more positive than the ones that are negative. So that's all a good sign. Best trade of the week so far is pound dollar. We kind of had a feeling that that was going to be the case when I sent out my top picks of the week. I'm going to explain the pound dollar probably first when we go and look at the charts here in just a moment. And then you've got Aussie dollar behind that looking really good. New Zealand dollar, great. CAD franc looking good. Aussie CAD's positive. NZD CAD's positive. Pound CAD's positive and Euro CAD's positive. The 4 that are down for me right now, the two of them are not that bad. And two are just kind of like, it's like not terrible, but they are down. So it's just the CAD yen and USD CAD. Those are my two that are down right now. And then I'm actually slightly down on Aussie CAD, or not Aussie CAD. I'm slightly down on Aussie franc, and I'm slightly down on NZD franc, very slightly though on those two. So it's really just like two break even trades, 2 down, and 8 positive, which is really, really cool. So hopefully we can pull out a positive week here. I think it's looking to be that way, so that's good. Um, at the moment, my plan is to hold these. Let's definitely take a look real quick at the news coming up. I just want to see if there's any significant news coming up this week. Um, Obviously, yesterday was the Memorial Day here in the United States, and so that's going to keep the markets a little bit slow during that period. We do have inflation with the Aussie tonight, so we got a CPI report, and tomorrow, Germany has their preliminary CPI. Uh, you do have unemployment claims on Thursday in the U.S., but that's pretty much it. It's actually kind of a light news week. We don't have a lot going on as far as news. So that's actually a good sign. So as far as I can tell, my game plan is to for the time being just hold the full position. I don't know if I want to take any positions off. It's just Tuesday as well. Maybe tomorrow we change our mind on that as we get closer to the middle and to the end of the week. But right now we're still very much early. So I think right now it's just to hold those weekly trades. But it obviously is always nice to start off on a good note. So I'm happy to see that doing well for the time being. Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mohammed. Good to see you. Good morning, Paul and Roger. Good to see everybody. Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's see what else I wanted to do. Okay, so let's go look at the specifics of the COT data this week. So there's like I said, lots of trades this week. Why do we have a lot of trades this week? Because last week we only had 5 overall signals, and this week we have 12. So what gives? Like why are there more signals this week than last week? So this is just part of the nature of the scanner, that you're going to ebb and flow with opportunities, right? And so it just so happens that this week that there's actually quite a bit of pretty strong shifts here on the 3 week shift. You can see the CAD franc, CAD yen, pound CAD, Aussie CAD, like all of these are really big positive numbers, right? And so when you have big positive numbers like or negative, doesn't matter, just the absolute number here is really big. Anything above like 15 or 20% shift in the 3 week shift to me is considered something definitely worth looking at when we're considering the COT report data. And so we have a lot of currency pairs that are in that category that meet that metric. So that's why we're getting a lot of signals this week. You'll note that most of the 3 week shifts are pretty much your signals for the week. The only one that's an exception is the pound franc. You can see as just a buy signal. It's not a strong buy, just classified as a buy, which I think it actually is doing great this week. That signal, it just wasn't, like I said, just never was classified as a strong buy. So by and large, if the 3 week shift is giving you a positive or negative reading and it's a pretty big one, there's a good chance that that signal is going to wind up being an overall signal for the week, just the way we have things programmed on the scanner. I mean, you'll note there's a lot of other correlations too. You'll notice like the long-term signals also agree, generally speaking, with the 3 week shift. There's quite a few sentiment signals that also agree in the same direction as the overall signals. Let's see, about 5 week shifts. Yeah, most 5 week shifts agree with the overall signals. But yeah, that's the big reason why we have so many signals this week. It's just all about that. It's all about that 3 week shift from the scanner. So there's been a lot of pushes recently by the banks to move some of these currency pairs, which is why we're hopping on that early. That's why the weekly trades are looking pretty good right now. There is actually, on a side note, we'll probably talk about this in the COT report webinar tomorrow evening, just when we kind of tinker with the COT report and talk about what we could change. That's a good webinar. Probably not a topic that I want to dive into during live trading, but there is something to be said about the importance of the 3 week shift and how it works and how it interacts with other metrics in the scanner. But yeah, anyway, so that webinar Wednesday night, every Wednesday night we do a webinar on the COT report, and that webinar is for specifically to talk about candidly like what we can do better with the COT data, how it works on the scanner, how it interacts with each other, all that kind of stuff.
Hey traders, it's Steve from the future. I hope you have enjoyed this video so far. If you are getting value out of this video, be sure to hit the like button, click the subscribe button, and share your trading thoughts. I read all the comments, so feel free to ask any questions you have there too. On a side note, I host live trading calls like this one you are watching every day. Some of my biggest trading secrets I share exclusively to just the members in my program. I host these live trading calls every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I also host a basic training webinar every Monday for the newer traders and the regular COT report and sentiment trading webinars every Wednesday night at 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern for the advanced and aspiring traders. All of these calls are recorded and promptly posted on the members' trading calendars at the conclusion of each call in case your schedule does not permit you to come to the live call. All of my members have complete access to the scanner. We call it Steve Scanner. This is an institutional grade trade alert scanner that picks the direction of the week on all 28 major currency pairs and includes trading instruments like gold, silver, NAS 100, US 30. Just in the last 90 days, I have made over 3,000 pips just taking the top trade signals from the scanner at the beginning of the week and then just holding those trade alerts until Friday. If you want access to the scanner, you can start a 14-day free trial with the join link in the description to get started. Lastly, if you really want to be a full-fledged VIP member of my program to get access to things like the basic training course, live signals channel, Steve's scanner, trading calendars, and the one-on-one calls with me throughout the month, you can use code YouTube50, that's YouTube50, no spaces at checkout, and save $50 on your first month. Again, just click the link in the description below and apply that coupon to become a VIP member, and I look forward to helping you with your inevitable trading success going forward. Now, back to the video.
Oh, and then the other thing I was going to say is it does seem like, generally speaking, if we have more signals on the scanner, it seems like we generally have a better week with the weekly trades. If we have a week where you only get 4 or 5 signals from the scanner, just like last week, those weeks seem to be not as good. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I think we should definitely monitor that and get and like look at all of our, you know, our results on our journals and things like that to see if that's the case. Because if it turns out that we trade better on weeks where there's a lot of signals on the scanner, then yeah, we want to pay attention to those kinds that kind of phenomenon, Um, definitely. So, okay, so that'll be tomorrow. So for those of you that want to come to the COT report webinar, that's probably one of the topics we'll dive into tomorrow is looking a little bit more in detail on the data of the scanner itself and the COT data. So that'll be good tomorrow. But yeah, that's why we have so many signals this week. All right, so from here, I have two things specifically I want to cover before we dive into the like looking for some new trades. But before we do that, I want to look at the COT scanner. So let's look at some of the biggest shifts this week. You'll notice a theme is kind of interesting, and it was surprising to me. A lot of yen pairs just this last week. So if I filter this by positive shifts in just the last 1 week only, a lot of yen pairs actually had a lot of buying activity by the banks, which was really interesting to me and a little bit perplexing, actually. I'm surprised that they bought so much. Um, because after with all the selling that they did. So I wonder if they lightened their position. I think this has more to do with not so much that they bought. It's more about them lightening up their position on the short position that they took. So I think maybe they got a little spooked by um how big their position was, because it was huge. You guys saw it last week and the week before. It was a massive short position. So now, with that said, a lot of yen pairs I think are still poised to go down, even despite the positive shift this week. If you look at it, there's still like the CAD yen. You can see it's still quite negative. It's the most negative shift over the last 3 weeks. Still pretty solid on the 5 week, excuse me, in the 4 week. Um, and like the USD yen is still pretty shorted over the last several weeks. Franc yen still up there. And yeah, um, so there's still several currency pairs that I expect to pull back over the let's go look at the CAD yen real quick. Um, I do expect this to eventually break down. I don't think that the banks are done with this one in particular. Actually, I posted about this over the weekend because one of the things I noted on the CAD yen was I just set this out in a separate post. I even posted this concept on Facebook. I mentioned, hey, look at how sharp these moves to the downside are, because the moves to the upside are gradual, but the moves to the downside are pretty sharp, right? And so when you see sharp moves like that, um, um, that's usually the banks. Okay, so if you see, a big push to the downside that's quick and it's sharp like that, often that's a bank. Okay, and it's the same thing with moves to the upside. If they're quick and sharp, their moves to that's usually the banks. And I mean the banks can also send it up gradually, but this kind of activity tells me that there's probably a move to the downside on the horizon that's coming. There's a bigger, more interesting move coming. And I still believe that. And especially looking at the COT data, even with all the positive shifts we saw this week, the CAD yen still remains as one of the most shorted currency pairs over the last 3 and 4 weeks. So, and it hasn't come down yet. So I still believe that this is one of the best pairs to be in if you want to short. If you want to short the yen pairs, this is probably going to be one of your good ones. The franc yen will likely be a good one as well, but it could certainly go and retest this area or maybe even up to this area before it comes down. So I wouldn't get so antsy about shorting that franc yen yet either. Um, One of the things we concluded, if you guys recall on Friday, one of the things we talked about was our game plan on how we're going to take advantage of these yen pairs. So it's really dangerous to try to short them on the way up, especially with how much interest there is on all of them. Both to like, there's parties trying to send it higher, and there's lots of parties trying to send it lower, like us and the banks. Uh, but if you get super, you know, big into a position, then you have no gunpowder later to work yourself out of that position. So what we decided to do is rather than try to time the very top of the market with a limit order, what we decided to do instead, and I think this is a good practice with a lot of currency pairs and setups that we take together, is let it do its thing, let it go up if it wants to go up. And then when it starts to crack to the downside, that's when we'll start looking for shorts. Okay, so we'll look for shorts. Um, we'll miss the top of the market, and that's just one of the downsides to this style, but it's a safer style. Is you'll miss the top like you'd miss over here, but instead of getting at the very top, as soon as you see it crack open like that to the downside, that's when you get the green light to do this. A lot of people do this on stocks as well. Like I do this with penny stocks. If I find a penny stock that's highly overvalued, instead of shorting the penny stock on the way up, even though everyone knows that, a month later, 2 weeks later, that stock's going to be hitting the floor, going through the basement. What if it goes up another 20% or 50% like penny stocks do, or 100%? What if it does something like that before it comes down, right? That's a big danger. So how do we avoid that danger but still make money? Um, well, or at least mitigate that danger, because you can never completely avoid it, right? But how do you mitigate that danger? You forego the top of the market, trying to time the top, and then you just work it on the way down. But you just have to be very timely, and you have to set alerts and be ready for when that happens, and then you can get it on the way down. So all right, so that's kind of my game plan with the yen pairs. So I still have a bias, especially on the franc yen, CAD yen. Probably CAD yen at this point is probably my favorite one. This could come down at any moment. I think we're actually short on this as one of the weekly trades. Let me check. Yeah, this is actually the trade I'm down the most on right now. I'm down on for those that missed it. Out of the 12 weekly trades, we got 8 that are positive right now. I got 2 that are close to break even, and then I've got 2 that are actually down. And the 2 that are actually down is my CAD yen sell and my USD CAD buy. Those are the 2 that are not doing the best at the moment. Um, but I still like this trade, even though it's currently in the wrong direction. So that's what I'm saying with this is if we're going to do a price action trade here, which I hope to do this week still, what I'm going to wait for, here's what I'm hoping for is this. Here's a trend line. If this trend line breaks open, which it could easily do in the next 12 to 24 hours, if that trend line breaks, you bet your bottom dollar we're putting a first retracement trade right there to short, and then we're going to try to write it down. So that's going to be the game plan on the CAD yen. Another way we could short this is if it went supernova like this. Rather than shorting it on the way up, what we'll do is we'll wait for it to retrace back from its supernova, and then we'll look for opportunities to re-entry, for re-entry to sell on that. So keep your eye on this one definitely throughout the day and throughout this week, because this is going to be one of the best shorts I think we could possibly take in this market. It's highly overdue for a move to the downside. The banks are extremely struggling on this trade, and they're anticipating a big move down. So let's get ready for that. And then the other one, let's see. Let me read this comment. Let's see, Paul says, new idea for t-shirt / swag. No Sunday scares when trading with Steve. I love that. That's great. And then Mohammed, or are you just saying we should go look at GJ? Is that what you want? Is that why you put GJ in there just to look at GJ? Um, I'm gonna just take it as that unless you have something else you're typing in there. But yeah, we can look at GJ real quick. Real quick on the scanner again, just like I was saying, a lot of these yen pairs, if you just type in yen, you'll see there was lots of positive shifts this week. Pound yen positive shift, NZD JPY had positive. But there's still others that didn't really have a big shift, like the CAD yen, the USD yen didn't have a huge shift. And keep in mind, even though these were big shifts this week, some of these 3 week shifts and 5 week shifts are still hanging on. They're still, hanging out, especially the CAD yen. Um, um, like the CAD yen is definitely one that I feel most confident with as far as COT data goes. Yeah, I'm feeling good there. But yeah, with GJ, it's the same thing. Like, don't short this on the way up. As far as that's probably what retail is doing right now. They're probably trying to time the top. And I mean, imagine how many margin calls, how many tens of thousands of margin calls have happened with different brokers when traders shorted here and they shorted again and they shorted again and again and again and again, right? And they just lose all their money by the time it just goes supernova like that. Well, this isn't a supernova. It's just price action that moved to the upside, right? Um, and so what we're going to do is the same thing with this one. If we want to trade pound yen short, we're going to have to wait for it to crack this trend line. That's the only way for me I'd feel comfortable enough to work with this because right now we're hovering around an all-time high, and I don't want to speculate where that all-time high is going to be because, like I said, this will be coming down, but we gotta be very astute with how we do this because it is kind of a riskier play. So the way this is going to be done is if we break this trend line, then we can look for first retracements around a liquidity zone and then write it down from there. That's a lot easier. The other thing too is this could certainly pull one of these. Like it could actually break up. And then I'm not gonna be shorting on the way up. What I'll do is I'll wait for this to crack to the downside, then we'll start to look for those shorts. Okay. All right, let's see. Yeah, Sean says, I believe that we are about to see them turn. 100%, totally agree. And Muhammad says, is that why the banks are buying it? I know that retail will, will be looking to sell the heck out of it. I don't know if the banks bought as much. I think it had more to do with, and we could look specifically, the scanner doesn't indicate this. Maybe that's something we get added in the future, but I think it had more to do with the banks lightening their position this last week. I don't think it was like this overall like, oh my gosh, we're gonna close our entire short position. I don't think that's what that was all about. I think they were just lightening up their position. And some of them, like the CAD yen, is basically unfazed. Like it's still one of the most shorted currency pairs by the banks right now, this CAD yen. So we'll just give its time. And this one's going to be easier because we got a much more clear trend line right here. Very clear trend line. So as soon as this thing breaks open, easy trade. Super easy to take that first retracement setup. But we'll just wait for that to happen. So keep an eye on it. Maybe if you guys see it happen and I'm not aware of it, maybe send me a text message and just be like, "Hey, Steve, it looks like CAD yen broke to the downside. Let's, you know what that means, right, Steve? So let's get that trade going." All right, guys, let's take a look at one of my top picks this week. So when I'm looking for top picks, and I apologize, I only sent one out. Fortunately, the one I sent out has been one of the best trades though. As far as the weekly trades, it is the best trade that we've taken is that pound yen or pound dollar. So I was kind of busy this weekend with the holiday stuff, but nonetheless, I just figured let me just figure out which trade I'd like to take. What's the trade I feel the most confident with, and that's the one I sent out. So I was GU. So first of all, when I'm looking for my top picks of the week, this is how I do it. So if you guys want to follow along to find your own picks as well at the beginning of the week, um, this is the process that I would I would suggest it's been working for us. It's been working for me. So if you want to do the same, I think it's a good idea. But I don't necessarily start on Steve's scanner, although I love the strong buys and strong sells from Steve's scanner, and I put money on them every single week, and I have been, and I will continue to put money on each of those weekly trades. I try to find these like very specific like plays that I feel like I can work with and scale into. And this is really for more price action type of stuff. And so what I do at the beginning of the week is I filter by the top 3 weeks, the 3 week shift. Okay. And I'm just trying to find, the biggest negative numbers and the biggest positive numbers, right? And I might look at the top five, six, or seven on each side, you know, with it looks like we have more positive numbers this week than we do negative on the 3 week shift. And so naturally, I'm going to be looking at more of the, I'm going to be focused more on the positive shifts because there are more positives than negatives, right? So pound dollar is one that came across my table when you're obviously it came across each one of us this week. And so I went to go look at that pair. And then this was my analysis. Let me pull up GU. So what I liked about GU was a lot of things. And so let's kind of break it down. This is a 3 hour time frame. So this is kind of definitely a higher time frame analysis. So um, over the last 3 weeks, it's been going up quite a bit. So a lot of the times I try to find stuff that hasn't gone up yet, but this one was a little bit of an exception. So this one had already been up, it was up here like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, it was up quite a bit right here. It broke a lot of structures there. 3 weeks ago, it kind of just simmered down here. And so this market's already gone up. The banks have made money on GU. They've definitely had a good run on GU. And so you might be like, well, hey, look, Steve, we shouldn't be buying this one now because the banks have already been making money. Not necessarily. Sometimes I've noticed that some of the best weeks um, with the COT data is after a really good prior week, right? So if the preceding week was pretty good, sometimes the following week is also equally, if not better, than the previous week, right? So you're trying to catch a wave, right? Um, Not always, like, right? Like if we find a currency pair that's like the CAD yen, for example, that one, the banks are losing money on that one. And so we're just kind of stalking that currency pair, waiting for that move to the downside. But sometimes there's more immediate opportunities on some of these other currency pairs like GU, where the the momentum or the wave is already to the upside. The banks are pushing that direction, and it looks like they're in the middle of their push. And sometimes that's a more immediate opportunity to, make some money. And I think this has obviously been a pretty good one. So the reason why I like this trade outside of the COT data, so that's kind of what led me to it in the first place was the COT data. And then when I started to break this down, I noticed, okay, we had a nice trend line right here. We had a break in structure of that trend line right here. That was about 3 weeks ago. Then it broke up. It retested this high, made a cup and handle pattern right here, and then it broke again. And this was just last week. So it broke this resistance just a week ago. And so I figured, okay, so we broke two structures in the last 2 weeks. Okay. One is a trend line break of structure, and the other one's more of a horizontal resistance break of structure right here. And so when I see the combination of these two things plus the COT data, that should be an immediate like, okay, yeah, this market's pushing to the upside. We're definitely seeing that push up. Then from there, I actually went to go see if there's more room to the upside. So how do you know if a market is likely to continue up after it's already done all these things? Well, you got to kind of figure out where major support and resistance is, right? So with GU here, the pound dollar, the next major resistance at level is this apex right here. So we had an apex high right there, and we haven't gotten back to it, right? The market has not been back to that area. So that's a liquidity zone. And in fact, if you turn on let's actually turn on some of these order block indicators and you'll see where those supply blocks are. We're currently at a little bit of a supply block right here. That might be why we've had a pullback over the last 2 or 3 hours on GU, but it is still um, by and large, most of the supply is above this. So it's like right up here. So I don't think the pound dollar's had its biggest run up yet. I think there's still more to go because that's where most of the supply is when you look at the higher time frame. So if I were to measure this from the current price, we have another, fit 45 to maybe 70 pips to go. We've already come up a little bit from the beginning of the week. This is the beginning of the week right here. We've already come up about 45 or 50 pips so far. So we're about halfway through the move that we're anticipating. Okay. And so that's where I think we're going to go is up to there. I don't know exactly how we're going to get there. Like it could certainly pull back and then go back up. So that's another thing I wanted to point out. So when I posted my drawing on Sunday, I I gave you two scenarios, right? Like I drew this out. I said, okay, it may just go straight up, which is what we're currently having, or it may pull back and hit this trend line and then go up. Either way, my bias is to buy this. So I don't want to sell, even though it could pull back to this trend line any moment. Like it could certainly pull back. So I want you guys to know that it that's definitely on the table. We could be due for a slight pullback, but my plan is to buy this even after a pullback. So I feel really confident about being in this trade, even if we do start to pull back here. And then my plan is to get it up to, this area up here is where I want to go. That's like 128, 500. Yeah, 128, 500 is where I want to go. Right now we're at 127, 800-ish. So, but yeah, that's the game plan is to try to get it to push up to there. Once we get it to push to there, I'd probably like to close most of my positions out, and then we'd be done. And if we pull back into, and actually this might be worth a price action trade. So we're going to get to that part. We're about to that part of the webinar, but I would say there's definitely a spot right in here that might be worth taking a trade. There could be actually a few spots in here as well that might be worth taking a long position. So, like I said, if this pulls back, I feel very comfortable with the, like um, with sending it back up. I'm not too worried about it pulling back because if it pulls back, I want this currency pair anyways. So, you know, so I in some of my other accounts, I've already set up some orders. Like I've got orders to buy somewhere in these areas, uh, in some of my other accounts. But as a group, I'd like to see if maybe we could get a price action trade as well. The only downside is again, like this currency pair could easily just continue up. Okay, so that's the downside is that it just wins, right? Sometimes that is an actual downside because if you're hopeful to get a better price, but it just takes off, like this kind of stuff happened to me back in like 2020, 2021 when I was buying real estate. It was like a crazy real estate market here in the United States. And so you'd put an offer on a house and there'd be 50 other offers, quite literally. You're competing against 50 other folks. And sometimes their profiles and their portfolio would be easier and better to close on. And so they'd close with them instead of you. Right. And so if you were trying to be picky with a particular price in 2020 and 2021, you would just miss out on the whole opportunity. Right. But then you also don't want to pay a premium if you're at the top of the market and things pull back. So it's a difficult decision to make, right? And that's the same dilemma that we're in every single day in trading is, trying to figure out if you're paying a premium for a price, is this going to give you the RR ratio that you need? All of that kind of stuff is stuff we have to consider. So for me, I'm good to continue to hold the trade. We've actually got a good price so far with what we took on Sunday night, and we'll just continue to hold it. But as far as a price action trade goes, there could be some really good RR ratios down here. So my thoughts were if you do get in on some kind of pullback down here, um, your RR ratio could actually be pretty good. That's a 1 to 2 right there. A 1 to 3 would put you about right there. There's definitely opportunities for sure. So, okay. So this is one of my top picks. As you guys know, I don't think there's really anything else to describe other than just like I said, the banks are buying. We're breaking structures to the upside. Um, there's room to grow because we got liquidity that's still far away, another 50 to 70 pips away before you hit supply. So all of this, no matter where you buy, whether now or you buy when it pulls back, all of that's a good price in the grand scheme of where we're trying to go with this trade. So that's another way of looking at it. Okay, so I don't think GU is going to utterly pull back from where it is right now, just like boom, just go through the floor. Like I don't think that would happen with how many structures we've broken and how much the banks have bought. So like I said, I think it's on the bank's mind right now to get this higher, and that's why I'm trying to align myself the same way. There's other currency pairs we could continue to look at as well. There's other ones that have done well, like the Aussie dollar. Let's see, yeah, that's a positive shift over the last 3 weeks. This is another one, like if you go look at from a price action standpoint, it's very similar. It's already been up quite a bit. My biggest qualm with the Aussie dollar is that we did have a trend to the upside and it looks like it's actually broken, right? So that is a little bit of so I'm definitely watching this closely here on the Aussie dollar. Is this a pullback or is this what is this exactly? Right. I do like the fact that this pushed so aggressively like it did to the upside. That was good. That's a really good sign. Um, it also last week broke all of this structure right here. So we had a nice break of structure to the upside right there. But then you also have a break of structure to the downside right here. So it's highly confusing, right? Like this isn't as clear as like the pound dollar is. This one could certainly go like either way. Definitely could see it go either way. So just watching this one closely, it's so far done well for us, but like I said, I could definitely see it go either way. It's not so clear on its direction going forward. So, but yeah, it's stuff like this that I would not be placing price action trades on because you know it's not as obvious. It's not as obvious what's going on there. So when I see something that's not very obvious, I definitely move on to something. I'll move on to something else and see what else we can find. So that's kind of how the process is for me each weekend. Let's go look at the pound CAD. That's obviously the biggest positive shift for the last 3 weeks. Let's see what that guy's done, and let's see if there's anything that makes sense here. So here's the pound CAD. Wow, huge move to the upside, right? Oh, real quick on the pound CAD. So this has been going up and up and up and up, as you guys know. And then if you look at where it is right now in relation to like this is where the market is. And then let's actually draw a line at the current price. And let's go back in time and try to find the last time the market was in this area. So yeah, the last time the market was in this area was over here. And so this is what you have to use to get clues onto as to where this market's going to go, right? Like how far is this going to go up or down, or before it turns down. So with this one, we say, okay, this is where the current market is. And then when you pull up the order block indicators, I think you'll find, yeah, this is where most of the order blocks are, is kind of like right here. So that's where the order blocks are. And so if this market wants to pull back, it's likely to pull back when it engages with those. And it currently has not done that yet, right? So if we go back to the current price, we haven't engaged with that yet. So there's a good chance, in my opinion, on this higher time frame, that the pound CAD continues to receive more of a push to the upside before this is done yet. But again, this could easily pull back once I mean, the banks need to start taking profits here soon on this buy position that they're doing really, really well on. So when that buy position comes into profit taking time by these banks, which will likely happen around up here, you want to get out of the way, right? But in the meantime, I think this is definitely still worth the buy. It's definitely worth the buy. Let's see. Let me look at this comment here. Mohammed says, "Hi Steve. If there's time, can you look at gold real quick? There's been a bigger buying shift the last 2 weeks. Two went their way, and last week it crashed. So I'm thinking we're headed to the upside. Yeah, we can definitely take a look at gold here in just a little bit for sure. I just want to get us into a price action trade with a currency pair. So yeah, if we have time after that, we'll definitely take a look at gold. So this is, like I said, this pound CAD, this is definitely one that I think has got more room to grow. Um, yeah, the question is just like, how do you want to enter though? Like, do you want to do a buy stop or do you want to do a buy limit? What's the best way to get in to this particular trade? Um, yeah, that one's tough for me to that this one is kind of tough for me to kind of figure out, honestly. Let me look at a few others that are on the scanner that we've been buying and looking at. So Aussie CAD's another one that's been really been pushing hard the last couple of weeks to the upside. Let me actually get back down to that 1 hour chart. Sorry, I've been on that 3 hour for so long, but I was mostly using that on the pound dollar. So let's get back to the 1 hour here. Okay, so here's your Aussie CAD. Yeah, this one's tough for me too. Like I honestly couldn't tell you too much. It does look like there's a trend right there. It looks like we broke. This is similar to the Aussie dollar where we broke structure as well. So again, I don't know if I'd be so super anxious about the buy. Obviously, we are buying because of the weekly trades, but outside of that, I don't know if I would look at this and be like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to." I don't know if I'd look at this and be like, "Oh man, that's a huge buy opportunity." I don't know if I'd say that, right? So I'd probably walk away from this one. So it's quick, if I don't see what I like, I'll just move on. NZD CAD's another one, really positive shift. Let's go take a look at the NZD CAD. And it's been positive for the last several weeks, as you guys know. Had a nice trend line here. And it looks like we broke that trend line right here. Okay, this is interesting. Let's look at the higher time frame. Yeah, that's definitely a trend right there. And then it broke structure to the upside without a care, just to real quickly. Very, pretty big aggressive move to the upside there. So, okay, so where's this gonna go? Well, it depends because this one is at technically a resistance level that's been the last time we tapped into this resistance area, it pulled back. So who knows? Maybe this is the time for the NZD CAD to start pulling back. Can't say for sure, but there is a liquidity zone that hasn't been tapped into right there. So that would be the next area. If it wanted to break up again, that's probably where it would go before it would break down. But I'm not going to buy at the top here. I'm just not going to place another buy right there, especially after uh, the last time we were at this area, it pulled back so aggressively. So, I have to kind of pay attention to that kind of stuff before I take a price action trade. Okay, the next one is the Euro CAD at positive 32 over the last 3 weeks. Let's see if the Euro CAD has a setup for us. Okay. This one's up pretty big. Okay, this one's interesting. All right, so let's pull up this. I'm still on the 3 hour, just an FYI. I'll go back to the 1 hour in just a second. But this is a very interesting setup. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I can work off of, like from a trend line perspective. Um, yeah, it looks like, well, I mean, that's definitely a break of structure. And even if it's not a trend line break of structure, we definitely broke our horizontal support and resistance zone right here. So, if that's not it, then That's definitely a break of structure right there. So yeah, Euro CAD has definitely been breaking up to the upside. And he's had a pretty good day. Yeah. This one's been bought up by the banks for the last 3 weeks, as you guys know. There is a little bit of a trend line right here. And so if this market wanted to pull back, that is quite a ways to go. So a little bit of a, again, it's this one's all like tough to say. Like I like the buy. I do like the buy. It makes sense with the COT data. It's just like, is this a good location to get in at? I'd say probably not. That's not a great location to get in on the buy. Um, there could be some pullback opportunities that we could place, but I'd honestly probably stay away from this one. So as far as a price action, I'm already in it. Like I'm buying this one this week, but I price action trade, I need to be more specific. These are very specific trades. We talked about the pound dollar. That might be the one we go and take. I like that one better than so far anything else we've looked at. Pound franc's also positive. Let's take a look at the pound franc, and then we'll move on. We're narrowing in, guys. We're gonna get there soon. I just want to make sure we find the right thing. So again, this one's had a supernova move to the upside. We had a reverse head and shoulders back here on the 3 hour time frame. And the last time we were up at this area was over here, and we're pretty much at a possible liquidity zone. So I can't say I'd want to do anything with that one at the moment. So again, I just kind of skip it. We talked about the Aussie dollar. We could talk about the USD CAD. That one's actually down right now, and it had a positive shift over the last 3 weeks. So, oh, it's actually slightly up today. So that's good. Very slightly up today. It's starting to have a little bit of a move to the upside. Okay, so actually there are a lot of things I like about this one. So, um, yeah, I see a lot of stuff here that I'm really excited about. So let's talk about the USD CAD. So first, again, back here, when you look at the USD CAD, had a positive shift this week. It's had a even more positive shift for the last 2 weeks, and even more positive shift for the last 3 weeks. So positive shift going on. It kind of falls off after 4 weeks and 5 weeks, but there's definitely an agenda or some kind of campaign on the USD CAD, which is good. And then the other thing, let's go back to the chart. Let's go to the 1 hour, and let's pull up the weekend indicator, and let's see where this market's been when they started to buy. So where did they buy? Where did the banks buy all of this? So they started buying 3 weeks ago, which would put you like right here. And this is where the market is. So it's basically done nothing while the banks have been buying. It's either gone down or just sideways. There's been a few moves to the upside, but nonetheless, they're still down after buying for 3 weeks. So this is an interesting one for sure. Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out on the 3 hour time frame, real quick, just real quick stuff I wanted to point out here. So on this higher time frame, we actually do have a lot of interesting structure breaks. So this was a nice support resistance area. We broke that right here about 4 or 5 weeks ago to the upside. Since then, we've kind of drifted backwards. Um, and it's left a trail behind of liquidity. Um, we've got some liquidity right here. It looks like we maybe tapped into that one right there last week. And then there's actually a few more areas that could be worthwhile down in here, if we break lower. I don't know if we will though. It could actually just break up from here. Then you also have a flag pattern right here. Uh, Nice little flag. So you have this little channel that's preceded by a move to the upside. That would be your flag. And that's usually a bullish signal as well. So this could definitely wind up being a fantastic trade this week by the end of the week. Got to break a structure right here on the higher time frame. You got a flag pattern. Market's slightly down from what the banks bought, so I think they have motivations to send this higher. A lot of liquidity zones nearby. So now it's just a question of how do you want to take this trade? Like, do you want to buy this as do you want to buy this at market? Do you want to buy this at a limit or a stop order? I'm going to discuss the pros and cons. I think we're going to settle in on this trade, so I'm going to show you which one we're going to do as a group. But we've technically already taken this trade as a weekly trade, so we're already invested on this one. So We'll have to see if this can wind up being a goodie here on the weekly trades, but it might wind up being a good trade as a price action as well. Oh, nice. Roger says he bought USD last night. Oh, yeah, I bet you're happy. That's great. Great news there. Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking, guys. So let's kind of zoom into this. Um, let's go back to that 1 hour time frame. That's usually where I trade on. And when we zoom in here, let's kind of talk about, you know, our different areas. So I'm going to start with limit orders. Limit orders, you basically could either get in down here or down here. Those are your two areas of liquidity. Since I'm already in on this trade, I don't want to place a limit order because I don't want to double dip a trade if it goes in the wrong direction. So I only want to scale into USD CAD if it goes in our favor. So I think the stop order is going to make more sense, in my opinion. The other thing too is I've seen some of these channels. Obviously, they typically break up, so that'll be good. But I've seen plenty of these channels actually. Um, I've seen them actually break down pretty aggressively before they move up, right? So I don't want to get caught in that if it does do one of those types of moves. So I'm basically just going to get in if we start to break to the upside. Okay. So that's what I'm thinking. And then I don't think the market order makes a lot of sense because we already are in this. We already have a trade. So I think the stop order is going to make more sense. And so stop orders are meant for breakouts. So now we just need to find a place where if a breakout happens, we want to be in this trade. So for me, there's a couple of places that I see that are natural places to break out. Obviously, if you break above this previous high, that would be a natural breakout point. I think that's a little bit far away, though. I don't think you should try to, that is kind of far. So the next place where I think it makes more sense is either like this area right here, this old high right here as a potential breakout, or you could try to place a buy just above that high right there. Either one of those would be fine, and then we could try to ride it out to the upside. The only downside to getting into a buy right here is if it fakes to the upside and then goes back down. That is definitely a something to pay attention to. It's definitely, something that could hurt us, but that is the reality of this style of trading. Thing is though, I like this style. I like the buy stops and sell stops. I think as a group we need to do them more often. The nice thing about buy stops and sell stops is they do in fact get us into trades if the market goes in the right direction. We had several trades at the beginning of May that were really good on like the Euro Pound and US 30. Those were all buy stop orders. Um, and those were great trades, right? So the biggest benefit to a buy stop and sell stop is it gets you in the right direction when the market moves that direction. The biggest downside to them is that you're not getting necessarily a premium price. Um, that's what the limit orders do, is they get you the best premium. But the downside to those is if the market crashes, then you're just in the wrong direction, right? That happened to us last week on Pound Kiwi. If you guys remember, we took a trade on Pound Kiwi. It was a buy limit order. It was actually a good trade. In fact, I think it's up even more this week, but it was actually a really good trade. It triggered us in, but it was some kind of like quick news event or something that sent the market down, hit our entry, and then hit the stop. Uh, and so that's just, again, that's just the baggage that comes with those limit orders is you get a premium price, but it comes at higher risk. So I think for me, I want more probability if it breaks out. So I think that's why we're going to do the buy stop orders. So I think this area would be good. Um, if we break above this, then I think we're starting to make higher highs. Here's my feelings on this. So we have this apex low right here, and then we have a higher low right here, and then supposedly we're going to get a higher low right here. So if we get higher lows and then this market breaks above this high, then to me that we're making higher highs and higher lows. So I feel a lot better about this position at that point. So So that's what I think that's the trade I'm going to take with you guys together. I like it this morning. And I think that the USD CAD could definitely see a major move to the upside coming soon. So let's prepare for it. I don't, like I said, I don't want to get too antsy about it. That's why I want to just do a limit order in case it does. Because if this actually goes down, if it continues lower, I don't want to get in anything beyond our price action or our weekly trade that we already have going. So, all right. And then, oh yeah, where can we target on this? Like, where can we go? So I'm going to have to go to the higher time frame. Where can we take profits? So a natural place to take profits would be kind of like up in this area because this was an old high liquidity zone. This was our previous high up here. That would be definitely a natural place to take profits. So that's about as far as we can go if we take this trade. So if that's as far as I can go, and I'm going to put a buy right there, I'm going to put my target there because I know that's about as far as I can go. And then I got to move this stop loss into about a 1 to 2 or better, preferably 1 to 3 if we can get it. I think I'm going to go 1 to 2 because it is a buy stop order. And buy stops you don't typically get as good of an RR ratio on them. I mean, you can, but it's a lot more tough because you're exchanging RR ratio for probability of success. So here, I'm just going to label a couple of things in here and we'll post this. Right. All right. This looks good to me. So I'm going to take this trade with you guys and then we'll post it. And then I think we still have time to look at gold. So we'll wrap up on gold unless you guys have other things you'd like me to take a look at. We can definitely do that. Okay, there we go. My big concern with USD CAD is that a lot of retail traders are buying this right now. And if they are, the banks may use it as an opportunity to turn them into liquidity. That's why I'm thinking the limit order is probably dangerous. Um, so I think the banks do want to send this up, like I was saying. The banks definitely have been, but they may try to burn some people in the process first. Once that's over, then I think you'll see the move to the upside. So I like our approach. I think this is a optimistic, cautiously optimistic approach. I think this is good because we're definitely in line with what the banks want to do eventually, but we're not going to, force it either. So I like it. I think we've done pretty good here. Okay, so I'm just about ready to post this. Give me a second while I get this posted. Okay, looks good. All right, that's posted. Let's go ahead and look at gold. And then before we get too much into that. Let's look at what the scanner says. Okay, so gold has a positive shift this week, and gold has a positive shift, even more positive over the last 2 weeks. And then it kind of is just whatever every week after that. Okay, so it looks like we're starting to, I think that's what you indicated, Mohammed, is that we're starting to shift to the positive side on gold, which would be a good observation. And then if you look at the last 2 weeks where they bought here and they bought here. So yeah, this market really hasn't, I mean, it's gone up a lot and it's gone down a lot. But from where it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, it's about the same price, right? So yeah, this could definitely be lining up to go positive. We have an apex low down here. You have an apex high up here. All of that is forming a higher low and higher high since then. So you've got this is a low that's still higher than this low. It is technically lower than this low or this low, but like I said, it's still higher though than everything else. The other thing that's good, if you look at these individual candles, these blue, these green candles definitely look more, they look bigger than some of these red candles. There's a pretty big red candle right there, but it looks like it got overcome by all this green buying pressure right here. And we are starting to make higher highs. So this is a higher high than this high. This is the higher low than this low. So we're definitely starting to push to the upside there in the last week. So, um, oh, that's a good observation. So, head and shoulders on the hourly, yeah. So they definitely have a reverse head and shoulders right here, unless there's another one I'm missing. But here's your two shoulders right here, and then you got your head right here. So, it does look like we're like I guess gold's not done yet. It's crazy. Like it's been pushing up like crazy over the last couple of months, but it looks like it's not done. One of the things I've been also saying too, um, is that silver is going to probably be an outperformer of gold, and it so far is the case today. Silver's up 1.2%, and gold's only up 0.4%. Um, let's see, what about going down? Is that a head and shoulders? Oh, I see what you're saying. So maybe you're talking about um this area up here. Like there was the most obvious thing that I see up here as far as a move to the downside was this descending triangle, right? And those usually wind up going down if they're a descending triangle, and that sure it did, obviously. But yeah, for me, I'm not sure yet. I wouldn't say I would say it's more bullish than bearish, personally. That's what I would say based off of what I'm seeing here. Like here's silver. Silver looks like it's making a cup and handle pattern right now. So this is your, or it's like a cup and handle with a handle on both sides. So you've got this area that's this is your cup. This is one of your handles, and it looks like we're making another handle over here. So you could almost pour a drink or water into a pot just like this. And usually what happens is once this handle is done forming right here, these usually wind up going even higher. So my expectation on these metals is that we might actually see this go up. But I'm not trading gold and silver right now. I do own it more as a long-term investment, but as a trader, I'm not doing anything. But if I had to pick a direction, I do like the idea of the buy on precious metals right now. So, all right, guys. Well, I think that's pretty much everything I have. So we got USD CAD going. I'm looking forward to seeing if that does trigger this week. So leave that open throughout the week. We might adjust it tomorrow. And then we have GU, everything else still running. Our weekly trades are looking good. So tomorrow we'll just give you an update on those if we need to make an update. All right, guys, we'll have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you guys in the next webinar. Thanks for coming.